Welcome everyone. In this video we are going to see the subject called neural networks and deep learning. So first of all, I'm going to explain before we start dive into artificial neural network. So we need to know what is a biological neuron. So if we understand biological neuron, it is the basic information processing unit of a nervous system. So we know that our human brain, it contains approximately 86 billion neurons, and each neuron is connected to thousands of others. So it performs simple computations based on the senses and everything, but it massive parallelism is present and it creates highly intelligent human beings, right? Parallel working is present and which creates the intelligence. So if we see the structure of a biological neuron, so this is the structure. So here we are having the dendrites. Okay, so dendrites, what does it do? Basically these are the inputs. So they collect the informations and pass it to the soma. You see soma. So here what is the purpose of the soma? It integrates the various informations collected from the dendrites. Okay, and it processes the incoming signals. Then we have another thing called axon. So what is the axon? You see these are the axons. So what is the purpose of the axon? These are the long fibers that carry the signal away from the body. That is, after getting all the information, it will come out of the body. So it transmits the output signals. And then synapse. Synapse is what? So synapse, if you see here, you can see the synapse. It is the junction between two neurons. It is the junction between two neurons, and it signals the strength depending on the synaptic strength. Okay, and it can be excitatory or inhibitory. Excitatory means out one, that is, it will fire the neutron, and inhibitory means it is going to the neuron is not going to fire. That is, it is not going to provide any output. That is, the output will be provided or not. It depends on the synapse. So we will see the working of a biological neurons. So the signals are received through the dendrites. As I have told, those are the input, and the signals are received as electrical impulses, and then the soma combines the input, and if the combined signal exceeds a certain threshold, okay, the neuron fires. That is, the output will be given out. So the output is transmitted through the axon to other neurons. So this is the figure you already saw. So the axon is responsible for the transfer of the output. All these things I have already explained. Okay. Now we will see the idea of a computational unit, that is an artificial neuron. So artificial neuron is basically inspired by a biological neuron. Okay, it is a mathematical model. So its components are similar to that of a biological neuron. So if we see the components, so you see inputs. In the biological neuron, we have the dendrites. So in its place, we are having the inputs x1, x2, and till xn. Similarly, we have some weights. That is, what is the strength of each input. So for that, we are having the weights. W1 will be for x1, W2 will be for x2, and so on. And it represents the synaptic strength. So it can be both positive and negative. Okay. Then what is the weighted sum? So it will be I equal to 1 to n xi y wi xi plus b. Now we know what is wi. It is the weight. Xi is the input. And what is the b? B is the bias. Why we need the bias? It helps in, because basically if we don't give the bias, it will act as a linear function. Okay, so that, and most of the problems that we get in real life, it is not linear, it is non-linear. So to add some non-linearity to it, so we go for the bias. So it helps to shift the activation function, and it also helps in learning the flexibility. That is, it helps to understand more complex problems. So for that, we are having the bias to improve the learning capacity mainly. And what is activation function? It produces the output. It mimics the neuron firing behavior. Okay, so later on we will see what are the various activation functions we know. And then the output. So what, suppose Z is the output, we saw this, right? Z is the output, so it will be applied to the activation function, and whatever is the result, that is the output. We will see what is a threshold logic unit next. So it is the simplest computational unit. Okay, so here we are not having the bias, the formula is same, so it will be basically 2 points, 2 output, 1 or 0. So if this summation of wi into xi is greater than equal to the threshold, theta represents the threshold, so the output will be 1, otherwise 0. Okay, and then we will see why we need activation function. Okay, so we will see why activation function is important. So I have already told what it does. It basically, the function, the output that we get is applied to the activation function. Now why we need it? So first of all, it introduces non-linearity, right? So if linearity, because as I have already told, most of our problems are non-linear in nature. So in order to introduce that non-linearity, we go for the activation function. And of course, without it, the neural network will behave like a linear model. And it enables to learn various complex patterns. Now we are going to see another very interesting unit, which is called McCulloch Pitt's unit. So it is one of the earliest mathematical model of an artificial network, neuron. So why is the name? Because it was introduced by two scientists. One is Warren McCulloch and one is Walter Pitts. So based on that, this name is given. Now it is a very basic threshold unit. Okay, and it mimics the firing behavior of a biological neuron. So here we are having only two inputs, binary, and output is also binary, 0 and 1, and we have a fixed weight here, that is the W that we use in the formula, so it is going to be fixed, and the neuron fires only if the weighted sum is reaches a particular threshold, that is that the value is equal to or greater than the threshold. And no learning mechanism is present because weights are predefined. Okay, and without it, the neural network behave like neural models. Okay, and it enables learning of complex patterns, and it operates in discrete time. Okay, so this is the mathematical model of the MP neuron. So these are the inputs, weights, we have this one, and threshold, let it be theta. So what is the net, it should be net output, not input. Okay, so the net output will be, you can say net input also. So net input will be I equal to 1 to n wi xi, and what will be the output? If this net is greater than equal to the threshold theta 1, otherwise 0. Okay, so I'm mentioning repeatedly about the thresholding, right? So a neuron fires if it is above or equal to a particular threshold. Now, how to define that thresholding logic, right? So it is a decision-making mechanism where the neuron fires only when the total input exceeds a predefined threshold. So basically, it acts like a on-off switch. If the switch is on, the neuron will be fired, otherwise not. So, okay, so it implements the logical decision boundaries. So how you are going to represent the neurons? So in this case, we are going to see about MP neuron, that is McCulloch Pitt neuron. So it is representation of logic gates. So the logic, how the logic gates are represented using MP neurons. So first of all, if we consider AND gate, all of you know the truth table. Like it is, if it is 0, if the inputs are 0 0, it is 0 0 1 0 1 0 0, and 1 1 is 1. So the parameters will be what? Both W1 is 1, W2 is 1, and theta will be 2, y equal to 1. Why? If theta will be 2 and y equal to 1, when x1 plus x2 is greater than equal to 2. Why it is greater than equal to 2? Because the value of x1 should be 1 and the value of x2 should also be 1. If both are 1, then only we will get this output. Similarly, for OR gate, W1 is 1, W2 is also W2 is 1. Okay, but in OR gate, either 1 can be 1, right? W1 can be 1 or W2 can be 1. It will produce the output. So the minimum condition is what? Y equal to 1 when if x1 plus x2 is greater than or equal to 1. That is, if anyone is equal to 1, it will be the output will be 1. Okay. For NOT gate, again, so if it is 0, the output is 1. If the input is 1, output is 0. So that's why y equal to 1 if negative input is given. Okay. It is not 0, threshold, it is theta. Okay. Then what are the limitations of this MP model? First of all, we have only binary input and output. There is no learning capability because bias is not present, so it cannot handle non-linearly separable problems. For example, XOR. Okay, XOR gate it cannot handle, and it has static weights, and it is a very oversimplified biological model. So that's all for today's class. Thank you.